Hi, and welcome to Broker Tools, the podcast where we unpack the tools, systems, and strategies that help brokers optimize the way they work. I'm Katie, your host, and following our recent conversations on paid ads and go high level, I thought it would be good to talk about lead generation that is low effort but high impact. Joining me for this conversation is James Tuckerman from B2B School. For those of you who don't know James, he's the founder of Antil, a print magazine for startups and SMEs. Back in 2009, he made the bold move to take it from print to digital long before it was cool. An early adopter of all things tech and yet somehow a self-confessed Luddite, James has a real knack for creating systems and content that will have you naturally filling your inbox. So if you are looking for a simplified growth system, James and his partner Johnny are the best at this. JT, welcome.
Hey, Katie. I should say, hey, because that's what you taught me to say when we started speaking years ago. I'd pick up the phone and you go, hey. Now I start that way.
Yes, yeah. It's one of those things. I now do howdy. So that's how my other group of people are now answering the phone.
Always evolving.
It's a greeting of sorts.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since we've caught up, and just, I guess, as a little bit of history, James and I worked at Antil together.
Yeah, a long time back. I remember I was working out of an office overlooking Flagstaff Gardens where there was a market, and you were in Brisbane, I think. I was in Melbourne. I think I said, I'm looking for someone that can help me get my systems in order, and you went, well, I can do that. And it was such a long time ago that I visited that office the other day, and I was really keen to see the view over Flagstaff Gardens, and there was a wall of buildings in front of this building. Yeah.
Oh my
gosh. The city has changed.
Is that where you took that photo where you said there was a door here once? I saw a post.
No.
It's a different one.
But that is a good seg. I took a photo of a door that had been bricked up. And I stood next to it and pointed to it and said, this was once a door, because it's a fantastic metaphor that all your followers will be familiar with. And that is all these old doors for going out there and getting clients seem to be now be bricked up. All the usual, predictable, reliable ways to get leads and new customers and clients, they seem to have been bricked up in a digital age, which means we need to find new doors and new windows and other ways to get into the mind space of our future customers and clients.
Yeah, and especially, I guess, in the age of AI, where people are now using ChatGPT and all the other tools to start doing their research and inquiries, how do you even appear there is its own minefield.
Well, do you want to start there? Because I think we're supposed to be talking about getting leads. And if you're a mortgage broker, that's really, really important. But at this point in time, AI is taking over. People are going to AI engines to get found and recommended. And if you get the things in place that are going to get you found and recommended by AI, that is actually going to have a flow-on effect when it comes to search SEO, but also other ways that a typical mortgage broker is going to want to get leads. Can we start there? Do you want to start there?
Yeah, I think let's, because at the end of the day, that's where everything's going. And so if you are not optimizing for it, and at the end of the day, this is where the whole low impact, I'm saying low impact. What I mean is low effort, high impact, because if you have all the systems set up, that is the low effort part. Because then from there on, this is where the generation occurs, and that's the high impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. Low effort, high impact. It always starts with a little bit of high effort, but then it gets simple and it gets low if you've got the systems in place. Well, if we're talking about AI as a way to get new customers and clients, I stumbled into this space when a friend of mine reached out and said he was talking with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT suddenly recommended me. He was asking some questions about producing content for B2B, which is my space at the B2B School. And it said, it sounds like you're talking about James Tuckerman's content rhythms framework. And the funny thing, he'd taken my information, he was asking questions, and he was building around it. He shot me a screen grab and sent it to me, and I was floored. Now, also around this time, my business partner, Johnny Iglesias, was having a strategy call with someone. And this was a complete stranger. Someone had booked a call. They were interested in getting some assistance when it comes to B2B sales and marketing. And again, John said, well, how did you hear about us? And he was expecting them to say, oh, I saw your content on social media. And again, this person said that AI had recommended me, my name, rather than the name of the business. And then the person asked some questions. It had come back. And then this person, in a roundabout way, had found an inroad to be able to book a call with someone in our business, which was our business partner, John. And he was able to bring that person on as a client. At that point, if you're running a business and you have been for a while, if that happened to you, you would immediately say, I got to figure out why this happened. And I got to reverse engineer this. And I got to make this happen again and again and again and again. So this sent John and I into a little bit of a deep dive, figuring out how to get found and recommended by AI engines. And the interesting first piece that we began to realize is that everybody wants to know how AI engines think. If we know how they think, we can exploit that. And this is also the way that people used to respond for search engines. So when it came to getting found by Google, people would like, well, how does Google think? And then you'd prioritize your actions to make what you do match the ways that Google wanted you to behave. So how does Google think? They think this way. Let's match our actions to make sure that we behave in a way that they're going to like. When it comes to AI doesn't think, but it definitely learns. So then we're like, okay, well, how does AI learn? And it really comes down to three things, and they're very interlocked and interlaced: patterns, repetition, and differences. So the first thing that they're looking for is a pattern. And the simplest pattern that I can give that will be very useful for getting found and recommended by AI is something that we call the 3 Ps. One person, one problem, one product. Now you look at most businesses and you say, who's your target audience? And they say everyone, right? What type of problems do you solve? Or just about all their problems. And what's your product? I'm a mortgage broker, right? And that becomes the answer. Whereas like Katie, she's got this business mortgage broker tool. So we could turn around and we could say, one person, mortgage brokers. One problem, well, there's probably like 3 to 5 problems, but one of them is most likely going to be systems and automation. Today, we're talking about lead generation. That's another type of problem. A third type of problem would probably be follow-up and closing, which could probably be solved with systems, as can leads. But we've got one person, which is the mortgage broker, one problem, which ultimately at the end of the day is to be able to get more high-quality clients, better high-quality clients. And then we've got the solution, which is probably not hire me because I'm awesome. It's we have a bundle or we have a system or we have a process that you can sign up for. One person, one problem, one product. That there's a pattern. So in my world, I can say I run the B2B school. I'm a trainer. I'm a consultant, all these different things. I'm a coach. And you know this. You meet someone at a networking event and they say, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a consultant. And they say, that must be interesting, which is code for that's not interesting. Get me out of here. But if someone says, one person, in my world, it's business owners that serve a B2B audience. So there are businesses that sell to other businesses, right? Classic example would be a web developer, right? Businesses that sell to other businesses. But then the problems for that audience are very specific. So for example, sales require very much on authority and credibility, the same as the mortgage broking industry. But deals also take weeks, if not months to close. Again, there are similarities. What is being sold is complex, often requires multiple conversations, and it's typically big ticket. We're not selling $9 umbrellas. But when we know the target audience, we know the problems, and we can build a method or a methodology that sits underneath that, a system. So I can turn around and go, hey, if you're a B2B business owner, you know how hard it is to stand out. Your business relies on trust and credibility, and you know how hard it is to get in front of the right audiences, and you know how hard it is to close the sale. It takes ages. What we do is we have a system, a method, a process where we help you build your authority, build your own predictable leads engine, and refine your offers to get the close fast. And that becomes a system. One person, one problem, one product. That type of language and that type of thinking, AI engines absolutely love. So if you're a mortgage broker, you could say, I'm a mortgage broker. That must be interesting. Somebody get me out of here. But however, if you decided that I'm a mortgage broker that specializes in entrepreneurial business owners seeking guidance with investment properties. So for example, someone's at that point, they've got their home audience, they've got their business. They want to accumulate wealth outside their business, possibly using their home as equity. That there as a target audience, one person, is someone that's probably going to engage your services once every 18 months to 2 years. Maybe once every 18 months to 24 months. But also, if we name that audience, we can look down another level and we say this audience has the same specific problems. One, the banks hate them. And I know this because I'm a representative of that target audience. The banks don't like us. Our situations are different, which means that we have a different set of headaches. Hey, are you a business owner? You want to buy your first investment property, but the banks keep saying no, right? And that's because banks hate whatever. And they go, well, we have a process for that, or we have a system. And the more the target audience will hear that, the more reassuring it will be for them. Ironically, or coincidentally, this is marketing 101. AI engines love patterns, one person, one problem, one product, but this is also marketing 101. The second, if we want patterns, we want repetition. Hey, Katie, I don't know if you've ever run this experiment, but you go into ChatGPT and you say, can you draw me a clock face? Draw me the face of a clock. Now, can you guess, Katie, and there's no way you could accurately guess this. I'd be super surprised if you did, but what time do you think it's going to say on the clock when you ask ChatGPT to draw you a clock face? What time do you think it's going to say?
I have no idea, but I have not done that. I've done the potato burning one, but not the clock face one. No. Would it be like a 3 o'clock or 5 to 3?
Well, that's the thing. I thought, oh, yeah, it'd probably be something like obvious, like 6 o'clock or something where the lines are like going pretty straight. Anyway, it's almost always going to be around 10 past 10. And the reason why is that now that I've said that, you've gone 10 past 10. If you go into Google and you write watches and images of watches, you will see countless pictures of watches for Rolex and all these other brands with their hands beautifully positioned at 10 past 10 because it looks great with the logo in the middle. The hands are placed there, which means that AI looks at this repetition, sees it again and again and again and again, and it says, when I'm told to draw a clock, it's supposed to look like this. Now, here's the crazy thing. After it draws your clock, I've done this countless times, not countless times, maybe 12 times. I've come back in and said, no, I want it to say 3:30. And it says, sorry, my mistake. I'll make it 3:30. And it will come back at 10 past 10.
Oh, wow.
It's been repeated so many times that AI is struggling to unlearn this piece of information. Clocks are supposed to look like they're at 10 past 10 because the repetition is so insane. Now, imagine when you pull these two things together. We've got the patterns, one person, one problem, one product, which we call triple down marketing. And then we start to repeat that pattern again and again and again in a lot of key places across social media, including our website. What happens is that when somebody is on ChatGPT and other places, they're more likely to say, I'm looking for this particular solution because I have this particular type of problem. And ChatGPT might say, what type of person are you, or what type of business are you? Or ChatGPT is getting smart enough to know that stuff about us, and then it provides an answer. Now, that might be hard. You're going, well, I'm a mortgage broker and I don't want to specialize. But once again, if we look at the second bit, which is the repetition, patterns and repetition, we might say that the pattern is, I'm a mortgage broker exclusively servicing Geelong. So one person is Geelong, location based. Yeah. So I'm a mortgage broker, and it could be Geelong families, could be just Geelong generally. And then the challenges are, you're in a remote location and you want someone that you can meet and you can trust. And then the product can be, I'll meet you in a coffee shop. And how reassuring is that? One person, one problem, one product. And then I'm there and I'm going, listen, I need a mortgage broker, but I don't want to, I need to be able to sit down with someone and talk to them and see them in their eyeballs, look them in the eyeballs. And they say, and this happened to my business partner, Johnny, when we were looking for an accountant. It immediately referenced an accountant that services businesses just like ours that operated within, I think it was like almost like 100 meters of his office. It was someone that basically that knew where we were located because we'd engaged with it enough and go, okay, here's someone that's recommended just for you. And it wouldn't have been able to do that if there wasn't a degree of patterns and then repetition to support those patterns. The third bit is the differentiators. And it's almost like the differentiators is almost like a backup layer or a backup step. But when you use ChatGPT or Claude or these other ones, have you noticed that they always say, it's not this, it's that? And it does it because it thinks it sounds cool. It's not a transition, it's a transformation. It always uses this, it's not this, it's that language. And it does that because it sounds cool, but it's also its way of defining who you should use. So Katie in her world knows all the different software and technology platforms that a broker is going to need to use, right? Yeah. And in Katie's brain and also in her systems and in her documentation, she would have different reasons why different pieces of software and technology are going to be useful in some situations and not in other situations. So there might be a piece of technology which is not for hospitality businesses, it's for brokers. And that's the other way that it uses to define it. So when you're out there going, oh, I'm a consultant and I'm a coach and I'm a trainer, that would be the crime that I would commit. It goes, all right, well, you're trying to be a little bit of something for everyone. But if I can turn around and go, I don't do coaching or I don't do consulting, I am just a trainer, that would be a differentiator. Or me personally, I don't do hospitality. I don't serve retail businesses.
Yeah.
The core would be B2B businesses, but however, complex B2C businesses also enter our world, but I don't chase those audiences. And ChatGPT knows that. And the other AI engines know that. They go, yeah, this guy's not for you. This guy's for you if you say these different things.
And I guess in a way,
those three layers, then it gets practical. Yes, Katie.
No, I was going to say, well, this is kind of feeding that whole frequently asked questions type thing, because that is what it's looking for. And so if you have that one person, one problem, you channeling it towards answering those frequently asked questions that people are kind of asking about brokering, and it's not even just mortgage brokers. It could be for commercial or asset finance, It's solving those kind of key problems that are there.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm glad you mentioned FAQs, because then the question is like, oh yeah, that's all well and good, James. I'm going to do a little bit of prioritizing here, and I'm going to look at my 3 Ps. I now know that repetition is important, and I want to differentiate myself. But where should I put this information? And the first and most logical place is your website. And the funny thing about your website is the most popular pages are your About Us page and your FAQ pages. And if you actually looked at your website, you'll probably be shocked to discover that your FAQ pages and your About Us pages probably get more traffic than your homepage, because they're more likely to come up under searches, search engine optimization. Someone asks a question and that's in your FAQ page comes up, or someone wants a question answered about your business, and again, the About Us page comes up. And if I explicitly went onto ChatGPT and I said, I'll make up a name, Mark Westwood, and I met Mark Westwood. He's a mortgage broker. What do you know about him? It's going to pull that information from Mark Westwood's About Us page on his website, and then also LinkedIn. So we might start with our website, and then the next question is what high value sites do AI engines look at? And one of the places that they do look at is LinkedIn. It's wild. If you search engine optimize your LinkedIn profile by putting in keywords, let's just keep this Mark Westwood analogy up. If Mark Westwood on his profile was Mark Westwood, I help business owners get finance for investment properties, and that there is a format, it's a model. I help target audience get outcome via mechanism, although I may have switched the order there slightly. But again, we've got the 3 Ps pattern. I help target get outcome via mechanism. If we look at that one there, it's a fairly simple proposition to change your LinkedIn profile. I help target get audience get outcome via mechanism, and then that will come up on ChatGPT. And then beyond that, I think if we want to make things easy and quick, it's probably your website, then it's LinkedIn. And the third spot, which is very frustrating for me because I don't use this platform very much, and that's Reddit.
Oh.
Yeah, Reddit answers. Studies have been done to show where AI engines pull the information from, and Reddit, and I think the other one's called Quora. Yeah, the information is pulled from those places more than anywhere else. Quora and
Actually,
Reddit.
YouTube is the top one.
YouTube is the top one, is it? I was thinking that at the back of my brain because I was also thinking that some people out there don't even have a website. So their brain's like going, well, I don't have a website. What should I do? And what's wild is we're entering a period here where we could get AI famous, get famous on ChatGPT and Claude and all the other ones, even without a website, if we're appearing in all the right places and we're following that 3 Ps mechanism that I talked about before. So Katie doing a podcast where mortgage broking and mortgage broking tools gets mentioned again and again and again and again across multiple podcast episodes. When that gets uploaded to YouTube, YouTube transcribes it, and then those transcriptions become the foundation for the training of the AI engines once again. So you can get to a place where you could be famous even without having a website and recommended because you're saying the same stuff, you're following, you've got your patterns, you're repeating it, you're differentiating yourself from your competitors, and you're appearing in all the right spots.
Yeah, and this is, I guess, where you're coming from, because once you actually know your 3 Ps, as in what your core person is, what your core problem is, then you can create any kind of content that serves that audience, and then you can just begin that network. And even if from a very basic level you just update your website, your frequently asked questions and about us page to answer that particular area of interest, then you'll appear in the chat of AI.
You're
whichever chat that is, whether it's Claude or something else.
Nothing's guaranteed, but more likely to. And the worst case scenario is that I said before, this is marketing 101. Like, oh my God, having a clear target audience and explicitly stating it. You mentioned, Katie, then that it becomes easier. It becomes easier to stand out in your space. And one of the most logical and obvious places to get leads is the creation of organic content, posting content on social media. Now, immediately someone says, well, I don't know what I need to post about. What should I post about? So we've got this thing that we pulled together called our cascading trios. And if we go back to our target audience and we say one person, and then we say one problem, typically what I've found is that one problem is usually not one problem. It's usually 3 problems all rolled into one. And when you understand the target audience, what we like to do is we actually draw 3 circles on a piece of paper. And it just occurred to me that I do have a piece of paper and a pen. I don't know if this is a video recording or just pure audio. But
yeah, we can see it.
3 circles is a 3-part Venn diagram. But what we do is we write the 3 different headaches, 3 big challenges of our target audience in 3 corners of the page. So in our world, I mentioned before that it takes ages to close. So we might put that in a corner, like it takes ages to get the decision, right? And for each one of these things, then we look at the inverse. So let's say in our world, 1, many business owners feel invisible. It's really hard to get their personal brand out there. And when they do, they struggle to present themselves in a way that's in any way different to just about everybody else out there. So they're invisible or they're identical. And neither of those things are very good. So we can describe that as a headache. Invisible or identical, which is a profile problem. We might then say, all right, well, then another challenge is that all their leads are dependent on referrals. They've got no predictable engine for getting the leads. It's just all referrals. And I'm sure that's the case in the mortgage broking space as well too. It's a friend of a friend and whatever it is. And referrals are great. When you get referrals, it means you're doing a great job. You're terrific at your job, but they're just so unreliable. And there are times of the year where they just stop coming in and you just can't even explain why. So the second one is that they probably lack some mechanism for getting leads, but the headache is bumpy leads, up, down all the time, which creates this feast or famine scenario for a business owner. The third one, as I said, is how long it takes to close a client. It takes ages. So I might look at that and I look at my three circles, my three interlapping circles, and I look at them and I say, okay, well, what's the opposite of being invisible or identical? I could write down words like authority, like that's the big goal, to boost your authority. But it would really be about putting yourself in a market of one, where everybody goes, oh, that's the guy, that's the girl. You know, you're a mortgage broker, you should meet up with Katie, right? Like everybody knows that that's the guy, that's the girl, right? Putting yourself in a market of one, in a category of one. Then we might look at, the ups and downs, the bumpy ride of feast and famine when you don't have a way to get leads. Well, the inverse of that is simple. It's a predictable leads engine. That's what we want. We want a predictable leads engine. Then I might look at how hard it is and what makes it difficult to close. And being experienced in sales and marketing, I've identified, I'm pretty much aware that the number one problem is offers that cause friction. So the inverse of that we call a frictionless offer. It's amazing how many times I see people, they've put together what they want to sell, and all it does is it creates friction at the other end. It creates barriers, it creates objections. In the B2B space, sometimes we're selling to a middle manager that's got to upsell it to a senior manager or the boss of the organization, or they've got to get their team on board, get the team buy-in. And there's all these different ways that deals are structured which create friction. But we also know that the inverse of that is a frictionless offer. So in our world, we look at those three things and we go, those three things are the three challenges. So those three things are the three outcomes that our clients want. Then in the middle, we can say, well, what happens if everybody gets all of those three things right? If they get, so suddenly if someone's the go-to person with a predictable leads engine and offers that almost close themselves, what does the business look like? And then that can become our core offer that sits between the three: one person, one problem, one product. But the reason why I went into this with all this detail is that everybody then turns around and says, well, what will I create content about? And the simple answer is that if you work through that process, you've already got three things that you can talk about. Now, the way that I broke that down into three things, what I found is that if I'm an expert in my trade, I might look at any one of those three things and I go, well, these are the three things that I would do to solve that problem. So if, for example, one of the challenges is authority and being the obvious choice, I might look at that and go, well, if I wanted to fix that, there are three things that people have got to get right. One of them might be triple down marketing, because you sound the same as everybody else. One person, one problem, one product. That might be one of my things. Another thing might be create second brain using AI, which is where you put all what you stand for and all your materials and all your content into a file or a folder, and you use that to train AI. And then the third piece, turn yourself into a content factory, which is what we're talking about right now. Put those three things in a sequence. Now, if I do that for each of my three things, I've now got 9 things. I've also got the original piece, which is the core offer, which makes it 10 things. Now, if I look at that and I go, okay, well, I've got each one is the core offer. So I've got the core offer, which is one thing, and then I've got the 3 things. That makes 4. Now, each one of those 3 things is its own core offer. It's an own way with its 3 things, and that makes 4. So we end up with 4, 4, 4, 4, which works out to be either 12 to 16, depending on how you want to play it. Hey, Katie, just to bring you back into the conversation because I'm talking so much, how many months in a year?
What? A month in a year? 12?
12. Yeah, right.
You'd hope so.
Which means if we work through this, we can actually have a theme for any given month.
Oh, yeah.
And the funny thing is that all the themes for any given month go back to the larger theme. And what you'll find is that if you're talking about these 3 challenges that they've got at the holistic level, and then the 3 things that they need to do in a more transactional level, you'll never run out of things to talk about. And I've even taken it one layer deeper. One layer deeper is that someone might say, okay, cool. So I've got my 3 things, and I also therefore know what my core offer is. So that gives me 4 things, which is a good place to start. But that'll keep me busy for 4 months. And here's the other funny thing. You could actually write the content for 4 months. At the end of the 4 months, just repeat the content and then do that 3 times a year, because no one ever goes, you posted that same piece of content 5 months ago. It doesn't really work that way.
No, and sometimes they don't even get to see the content that you posted 5 months ago.
Never seen it. Like 7 to 15% of the people see it, but they see enough to go, this is what this person's about and this is what they're talking about. But at the same time, what we're also doing is we're training the AI to see us talking about the things that we do in a highly repetitious way. So what they do is they see the patterns. They go, this is the target audience and this is their core offer. And to solve that core offer, they do these 3 core things. But to solve those 3 core things, here are 3 things that they do to manage it. But at the final layer down is we have what we call our content rhythms, because no one can ever stick to a content calendar. But a content rhythm is, we say, and we do it by the week, but a lot of our clients run our content rhythm over the course of a month. But our content rhythms, we're quite prolific, take a week. But we do Monday, bust a myth, Tuesday, give a gift, Wednesday, tell a story, Thursday, reveal a tactic, Friday, call to action. And the funny thing is, if we do that, the Monday we bust a myth. So we talk about something that people do wrong or an industry sin that specifically ties back to the theme. So if I said my theme was going to be about the idea of offers, I might talk about the idea that most offers have friction built in. They're self-sabotaging from the outset. And in doing so, I'm busting a myth. I'm saying, you think, the old way of doing offers is you think is the best way, but it's broken. And I'm positioning myself as a thought leader by just bringing up a common mistake or a myth that needs to be busted. Now, in doing so, it's pure value content by busting the myth, but I'm positioning myself as the authority. I'm putting a stake in the ground that this is my area of expertise. And then most people are already thinking, well, what's the solution for this? What's the inverse of this scenario that he's talking about? Which means the Tuesday I give a gift, and I give away a gift as a way to generate a lead. Download the roadmap, download the checklist. And I know what the gift is going to be about because I know my theme for the week. So it could be 5 steps to a frictionless offer. Then on the Wednesday, I tell a story, and the story is typically one of my clients, or it might be a story of my own. But a good one is, we had a guy called Dean come into our world. It would typically take him 3 weeks to close a client. We helped him get it down to 3 days as the average, right? And that was purely because of the way that he'd structured his offer. And there are little things that you can do. So, for example, there's a bit of your offer which everybody wants and you hold back on it. And then at the very end, you introduce it as a bonus with a time frame. The little things you can do.
Yeah, which I think is all the gift of what you do at B2B. And I think when I go back in history and time, we might have prototyped some of this when we were working at Antil, because I look at all the patterns that we learned from Antil and what you're doing in B2B. But when it comes to like brokers in themselves, when they're creating this content, once you know even the 3 areas that are the headaches, as we know, then you can actually talk to each area. But then from a content development point of view, you can start with answering those kinds of questions in your website. But then, like you said, you can create one piece of content on your social media answering one of those questions, whether it's a myth, a gift, or any of the other things. You can do that over the week.
Story, tactic, call to action.
Yeah.
And even if you ran it over a month, it's, like week 1 is the myth, week 2 is the gift, week 3 is the story, week 4 you do the tactic and the call to action in the same week, Tuesday and Friday, which is also a great email marketing rhythm. So you're sending 1 email a week, and then the last week of the month you send 2. And the second one's a call to action, which means that it's promotional by nature, but no one cares because they've been reading these other emails and you've been so generous with the information, despite the fact that every one of those messages you're selling. Like a case study you're selling, a tactic you're selling. A gift is a great one because someone opts in to get the gift and then you redirect them to your booking form. A super powerful way to get leads.
Yeah, and I guess this is where the whole low effort is, because if you know where you're channeling it from, then you can start doing these themes. And even if the questions are the themes for the month, because you said there's those 3 areas, but then you've got the crossover section. So that's really 6 areas. And then you've got the core center. So you're building at least 7 months of content just alone. And then, February is Valentine's, so you can just throw that in.
Throw it, and then October is Halloween, so you do a Halloween promotion, and
then you've got Christmas, and Thanksgiving. So there we go. You've got your 12 months.
You got your 12 months. I like what you said about the FAQs though, because I mean, like we've got a fairly specific way where we work out what's the headache and we work out what's the alternative. Even if you just went, what are the 3 core headaches? And then what are 3 questions that someone's going to ask when they want to resolve that headache? And you put that in your FAQs, you're miles ahead. I'm trying to think of a website, Katie. There's a website, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, but you can put in your area of expertise, and it comes up with this wild wheel of all the different questions that people ask.
Are you talking about Answer the Public or
that one?
Socrates?
Yeah, Answer the Public, I think, is the one that I was referencing. And you put it in and it gives you all the questions that your target audience are likely to ask around that specific topic.
Yeah.
The low effort piece as well. Now, as I'm talking about layers and bigger picture, the brain's like going, oh my God, that doesn't sound like low effort. But if I bring it back to the fundamentals and I talk about one person, one problem, one product, if you put that into a document, not just on your website, but if you put that into a document, you can also use something called schemas on your website to put it on your website in a way that AI is more likely to notice. But if you get that information and you put it in a document and then you break it down one layer deeper, as in like these are the 3 headaches and these are the solutions that I provide. If you've got examples of your own writing, which we call a voice codex, you can put all these things into a little bundle of materials. And when you have this bundle of materials, we call it a second brain. Mm-hmm. And in its simplest form, it's a company overview. It's examples of the way that you like to write. In our world, we would include a signature method, which was what we've been describing, the 3 circles to create their own flywheel. And you can upload that into ChatGPT as a custom GPT, set up your own custom GPT, which means that for me personally, on a Monday, I go into my custom GPT and I say, hey, I want to write some content. And it says, sure, what theme would you like to write some content about? And I'll go, well, this week my theme is this. And because I've trained it the way that I want to train it, it says, okay, well, let's start with the myth email, or let's start with the myth post. And it gives me some ideas for a myth. A lot of the time I come in with my own idea and I say, I've already got an idea for a myth. It's this myth. And it will reference what the business does, which is like the overview and mission of the company and your core promise. It'll reference your own methodology or your own signature statement. I help target get outcome via mechanism or via these 3 ways. And it will also, if you've got your own style of writing, it'll reference your own style of writing. If you don't have your own style of writing, you can actually say, oh, I really admire the way that Seth Godin writes. Make me write like Seth Godin. And what I find is that it'll get, the work 80, 90% of the work done. And then I can run it as an email to my audience or I can paste it. But that's because I've done the fundamental stuff, again, marketing 101. And I'm training a new piece of technology to be able to speak in my voice and make the recommendations that I would make.
Yeah. And I guess when we're thinking about lead generation, and I either think about this as like fundamental principles of what you call marketing 101. And this has rung true throughout my time of working alongside you. And everything I've ever done since is you're remarkable. So can you get those remarks? And that's what we're trying to make AI do, is remark about you. And how do you be remarkable in your industry so that others, whether it's word of mouth or AI mouth, can remark and actually go, you are the actual place. And then when they come to your website, not only do you have those frequently asked questions, but you have something that they can download, which feeds that funnel so you can put them into your pipeline. Because that is the low effort, because you've done all the pre-work, because you've targeted them and brought that message back to them.
Well, that there would be the last piece of the puzzle, wouldn't it? Because we started off with AI, and if you have patterns, if you know your patterns and you keep repeating them and you differentiate yourself from other people, by and large, you're going to be remarkable. Remarkable is a fancy way of saying you get referrals, that you're being remarked about. The next layer down is you're going, well, that sounds really hard. How can I do that? Well, if you've got your own method or methodology and you just consistently continue to produce content off the back of that, you're going to get known by social media engines, and you'll get known by Google, and you'll get known by the AI engines. But that final piece of the puzzle that Katie just mentioned there is something that we call an off-ramp. And that is because, for example, you want to be famous on LinkedIn, but fame on LinkedIn on its own is not good enough. You want to get your future customers and clients off LinkedIn and into your business. Or you want to be famous on TikTok as the person that consistently talks about the same issues of high interest to a specific target audience. But at the end of the day, you want to get them off TikTok and into your business. You need some sort of off-ramp. Same deal with Facebook. You're on Facebook posting 2 or 3 times a week. You've built an audience of followers that are interested in that specific stuff. Your friends and family know what you're about now, so that they can recommend you and refer you. But again, you want to get those people off Facebook and into your business. And the easiest way to do that is just to simply create some sort of resource or guide, often called a lead magnet, an ethical bribe, but a gift where the price, even though it's a gift, the price is a first name, last name, email address, and maybe a phone number. Present something of high perceived value to your target audience. And you know what that is because you've built your own methodology tackling the 3 big headaches that they have. So you know what it is. But also, if you're producing content and publishing it, you also know what resonates. Because you can post 3 different things and you get nothing. You get donuts, and then you produce the 4th thing and it goes bonkers, right? So you know what the hooks and the headaches are, and you can create an item of content around that, put it on a landing page. Do you have a CRM or landing page system that you're specifically recommending at the moment, Katie? Or is there one that's associated with the mortgage industry?
Well, there's a few, and this is where I would want to have a conversation to figure out your actual setup.
Yeah, it's true. Every business is going to need something slightly different, but the popular brands are things like HubSpot, Go High Level.
I guess so. This is where maybe the brokering industry changes, because what I have found is that they use CRMs very interchangeably with other tools, and so HubSpot, Pipedrive, they're probably your normal out-of-pocket ones, but then there is in-house ones like Lend and Effie and Finance
and industry-specific ones.
Yeah, and so how, how do you want to manage your lead funnel? Then there's Go High Level as well, like on the top layers of things, and so.
Yep.
At the end of the day, it depends on what kind of company you are. Are you a marketing-focused person versus I want to process my leads type person?
Yeah. But the main thing is that you need a way to be able to collect the lead so it goes into some sort of CRM, which is effectively a database, so that you can follow up on anyone that comes into your world. And the softest form of follow-up is when you add someone to your email newsletter. And if you're wondering what to put in your email newsletter, I've just given it to you. You bust a myth, give a gift, tell a story, reveal a tactic, then have a call to action, and then just run it. And then just run a sequence, which could be you stacking more messages to the back, and anyone that comes in the front is just going to get the same emails in a sequence, or you're doing it as a live thing. I suggest that you just stack them in a sequence. When anyone comes in, they all get the same sequence of messages, working through your whole method or methodology. And what that means is that by the time you've got about 12 months worth of messaging, you never have to do it again, because anyone that gets to the end, you just put them back in at the start again, and they don't really mind.
And I think no, sorry, I was going to say, and I think at the end of the day, obviously we all know that any industry is busy, and brokering is heavily, fanatical business and can be quite hectic. And so if you're just trying to do what we call simple lead generation, this is what your method is explaining, because if you can just start with frequently asked questions, therefore you're highly recommended in AI. But then it's this other lead attraction process, which makes you remarkable, because whether we realize it or not, humans, the first and ultimate search engine.
Yeah.
And we are filtering things going, hey, I think I know somebody for you. And yeah, sure, that's a referral. But then that person who's just said, hey, you should check out, might go to your social media and check you out. And so it's crafting that content to make you that source of truth.
Yeah. And we also know that it usually takes a bunch of touches for someone to trust you. I think people mostly say, oh, in my industry, it's all about relationships. I see people say that all the time. In my industry, it's all about relationships. No, it's not about relationships, and it's never been about relationships. It's been about trust. But relationships have historically been the easiest and the best way to build trust. But these days you can build trust without having a relationship with anyone. You can build a parasocial relationship like we do with our followers. And I might run into someone in the street and they launch into a conversation like we're best friends, but we've never ever met. And the reason why is because I've got to know the headaches, the obstacles, the aspirations and desires of my target audience. I've turned that into questions that can be answered, FAQs. I've turned that into content that follows a sequence. We call it our content rhythms. And we turned it into resources that they can request and download and give us their first name, last name, email address, phone number in the process, which means that then they can step into our email sequence and we can build a relationship over 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, 2 years. And we've had people that came into our database 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and eventually buy something from us. But I'm not personally chasing them or harassing them or haranguing them. I'm just using the system that I've built. And maybe it's taken them a little bit longer to build that parasocial relationship with me, or maybe it just wasn't the right time. But telling ourselves that it requires a relationship is a lie. It's because that is the most comfortable and familiar model. So we always default to the most comfortable and familiar model. But the reality is that the first step to embrace something different is the one that's going to involve the least and lowest effort moving forward.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, you don't have to do it alone. Obviously, you, James, you have the B2B School that people can come through, and you've got free content around this. So they can even just do your free content around it. But if they wanted to, they can also reach out to you directly to run a customized funnel to build that out. But one of the things I've also found with what you also do is that you show how to outsource it so that you're not necessarily the responsible person all the way and things like that. It makes me think of Sean Evans, from Hot Ones, where you go, there's this camera, and this camera. You tell all the people what you do and what you have going on for you. But I just thought if we open up the floor to you, and I guess anybody who's watching this, where would you like them to go?
Yeah, I mean, obviously b2bschool.co is an easy place to start. And there are lots and lots of resources on that particular homepage. It's pretty easy to choose one of those resources. You might say, hey, I want the door opener's guide, or I was interested in that signature method framework that you were talking about, James. That's often the easiest place to go. In our world, you'll start to receive a bunch of emails. We have something that we call a sideways sales letter. It explains what we do and the information that people are going to need in a series of emails and videos, all of them very educational. And then if someone qualifies, ticks all the boxes, they're provided with the opportunity to book a strategy, a B2B funnel mapping strategy call. That obviously is only applicable to the people that are in B2B, and we only work with the business owner, and the business needs to be earning over a certain amount of money to get that call. And that puts that audience in the minority. But if you're not in that audience, there is a gazillion free things that we have. And as a bare bones minimum, we have a membership, which is $79 a month or $99 a month, depending on whether or not we have a promo when you see it. But at either price point, it's a hell of a deal. It unlocks our library of over $24,000 worth of courses. There are also custom GPTs in there for all sorts of different things. As an example, we have like a search engine optimized blog builder so that you can create blogs for the purposes of SEO in minutes using our custom GPT, something that mortgage broker would get a lot of value from. But at the same time, all of it is so much easier if we can go right back to the beginning. One person, one problem, one product, creating content in rhythms, and then of course having some sort of off ramp to get people into your world as the final step, because that's when you get to have your conversation and that's when you sign customers and clients. And in our world, I love it. I love it when someone is pre-sold before we even speak. They get on the phone and they're just curious about the best way that they can start and the fastest way that they can pay us money. And that there is the holy grail of all forms of sales and marketing. We call it the VIP, the very interested prospect. They're ready to go. They just need to know the rates and how to start.
And that's, I guess, the way you should always close out with what we call the simple trust formula. Because if they have learnt and built all this trust over time with you, then why not? Like, it's an easy choice.
Yeah. It's a super easy choice. And even if they've never met you, they feel like they know you because you've been generous with your advice. Hey, I just thought of a story or an anecdote that might be a fun thing to end on. I got a funny question for you, Katie.
Sure.
And you've probably heard me say this before, but why is your favorite celebrity chef rich and famous?
I think it's because he gives away recipes.
That's exactly right. So what people say is they go, oh, it's because, I don't know, they got a great personality or they got a television deal. Are they the best cooks? Absolutely not. Your favorite celebrity chef is not the best cook. Is it because of the television deal? Yeah, that's part of it. But the main reason why a celebrity chef is rich and famous is because they give away their recipes 24/7, 7 days a week. And what do? We go buy their branded saucepans and their cookbooks. And if we've got really deep pockets, we hire them to cater our private functions. Or we go to their restaurants maybe, right? It used to be said that the margin is in the mystery. If I don't tell you what I do, I can charge more. The reality is that every mystery is now available as a 5-minute YouTube video, no matter what industry you're in. So you may as well demonstrate and explain how it is that you do what it is that you do. And people will look at it and they will feel immediately reassured that you know what it is that you know what you're talking about, which means that when they reach out, they're coming from a level of education which makes your conversations flow so much easier and the trust is so much higher. Because the inverse of that is when we have a conversation with a potential client and firstly they ask us the same dumb questions that we've heard 5,000 times in our life and we smile and graciously answer them all patiently until one day we lose it and climb a clock tower and, I don't know, do bad stuff. Or the person is educated before the meeting and they come in and they say, I really like your perspective on this. And you're talking with someone who's already at a higher level. But the main question was, why is your favorite celebrity chef rich and famous? The answer is because they give away their recipes, whereas everybody else is clutching it close, thinking, what would make someone hire me if they knew how to do exactly what it is that I do? Well, firstly, if you're a mortgage broker, we need you anyway. You have the relationships, you have the contacts, you've got the software in your businesses to be able to align what we need with what the banks are expecting. We know that you're going to guide us through a process. You're going to make it as easy as possible for us to pull together our financial data so that we're as attractive as possible to the bank. You can explain all this process. You can talk about the software that you use and why it's fantastic software. Someone might look at you and go, well, I could get that software and do it myself. And a very small percentage will. And then they'll go out and they'll find out it's a lot harder than they thought, and then they'll call you next. Or maybe they'll replicate what it is that you do, the 1 in 1,000, and they'll actually pull it off. And then someone says, how'd you pull that off? And they'll recommend you. In almost every scenario, everybody ends up coming back to you, and that just simply comes from being generous with your knowledge and your expertise, being the master chef in your space.
And I couldn't agree more, especially the gift of what you think about as a master chef is that they take complex recipes and it breaks it down into simple, understandable ingredients so that people know how to pull that methodology together. And as we all know, within the broking space, finances can be complex. So if you've broken it down prior to them actually having their first meeting, they've built all this trust because you've built the recipe of knowledge of how to get finance, that they know that you're the right person to find the right finance for them.
Yeah, heck, how good would it be if they show up to the first meeting and you explain all the financial data that they need and they say, oh yeah, I've already put it together in a Google file. Yeah, my wife and I did that last night, or my husband and I did that last night. And you go, terrific. We're on our way. You know, or there's the transparency piece. You know, someone meets with you and they don't want to tell you their financial information because, I don't know, I just met you. But you can't do your job unless they tell you everything, warts and all, you know. Oh, yeah, I've got that Citibank card with 30 grand of debt on it that I can't seem to get rid of, you know. You need to tell them that. Otherwise, it's going to be a blocker. They need to tell you that. Otherwise, it's going to be a blocker.
Completely. But before we go down more rabbit holes, because you and I can talk forever, I think we should wrap up. And at the end of the day, if you want to, I guess, reach out to James or even Johnny, you can go to b2b.co. Is that right?
B2bschool.co. B2bschool.co.
School.co.
But if you search James Tuckerman, I'm going to come up. Indeed, I had a guy the other day and he was trying to sell me his SEO services, and he shot me a little video and he went, look what happens when I type in James Tuckerman. And then all this stuff came up around me and I could see that he paused and he was like, oh, I didn't expect that. And he said, yeah, well, most people are not going to do your full name. They're going to do this. And he did it again. And he went, James B2B. And not only did me come up again in 50 different ways, but there was an AI summary that it says, it sounds like you're most likely talking about James Tuckerman.
And that's
what's that?
I said, that's what you want to be. Like in the end, you want to be summarized. Therefore, you don't need an SEO agent to run your business.
Yeah, James B2B. So if you're looking for me, you could just search that as well too. And hopefully I'll come up.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you once again, James. It was great having you. It was like going back in time. But yes, again, all details will be below. If you need anything else or a roadmap or something else, let me know and I will see what I can do and talk to James, and maybe we'll do another podcast to go deeper on a particular topic or process. All right. Catch you guys.
Thank you. Clap, clap, clap. So at the end, I have a title card, right? And it drops my logo and it makes a thud noise. And what that means is that it means that I can end whenever I want. So I do the sign off. I go, thanks for your time, Bugalug. And they go, it's my pleasure. And they go, shakung. And it just, or sometimes people will say something funny and then we laugh and then it goes shakung, like the end of a Naked Gun episode or something like that,
Yes, I clapped too soon.
Right, that's fine. But it's fun. It's fun as well too. You can have you might clap and then it goes shakung. And I was like, oh, that was funny. That was weird.
Hi, it's Katie. I'm still glad you're here because there is more behind the scenes conversation with James and I after this little conversation you and I are having right now. If you've ever watched the first episode, you would know that this is what I call a rolling experiment. I'm trying to teach as I go along just some of the basic principles of marketing. Often you have to just start where you are. And I think when I did this whole rollout, I hadn't really figured out the kind of podcast tool I wanted. I'd been recommended Riverside, and it made me pixelated, and I didn't like it, but I still gave it a go. So you will see that in a couple of after this conversation with James, I just decided to do like a rolling week experiment with different podcasting tools. So I started with StreamYard, which is the one that James and I used, and so you'll hear that mentioned. I did go to Riverside for a chunk of time because I was like, maybe it's my laptop. And I've learnt that with my Apple MacBook laptop, it made me more pixelated than the Microsoft Surf, which is what I'm using right now. And so I'm doing these live experiments and testing and tweaking all the different software so that I can come back and say, this is what I have found works in podcasting. But I'm also just using it as a live experiment. So yes, I was using StreamYard when I was talking to James, so there is details there about it. Right now, this particular video is being recorded using Podcastle. Actually, they've just changed their name to Async. But there will be a blog post coming out in the near future, just comparing the different podcasting tools, because we tried Zencaster, we tried Squadcast. I went through a few, but I won't bore you with the details because I could talk forever about it. But at the end of the day, James and I had a good conversation. We do have some more behind the scenes, I guess, moments that if you want to listen to, you can. And I hope you enjoy it. You will know when the streaming is, or the podcast is finished, because it'll just wipe out with the broker tools. But if you do want us to do anything else, please let us know. I look forward to continuing the conversation with you.
We've been playing around with Opus Clip. We've been playing around with Riverside, and now we're playing around with Opus Clip and Descript. But now what we can do is StreamYard's going to spit out. It's either going to spit out one file or two files.
So this is why I chose StreamYard, because I tried Riverside, but for whatever reason, it made me pixelated, and I'm vain, so I don't want to be pixelated.
Yeah.
And this is because I'm trying to also teach what I call bare basic systems, start with where you're like, let's get going. And so this is why the system's the way it is. But Descript, I couldn't even figure out how to blur my background. I had to ask the AI. So I went away with Descript. But I'm telling you this because this is probably why you might like StreamYard. Not only will it come out with like this as a whole format, but it'll have the 2 speakers and it does some AI clips for you. Like it does some shorts.
Yeah, cool. That was the other bit. That was what I was saying, can I get the 2 clips? Because I was going to stick them into our whatever AI engine we're using. Anyway, so now we've got it. So
Descript is really good. Like especially if you make a floof. So I would have to export this. I can't actually do AI transcripts or edit what I actually literally said. So Descript, if I wanted to cut out like my clap, I can cut that out.
Well, yeah, what I'd love to do is, and this is for my vanity, is that I'd love to get the two clips, put it into Descript, and then it's like, it's the 2 heads sitting on top of that on TikTok, and Insta and Reels. That's the one. And then you just pull out those clips, and which is why I like really like hammed it up for there was 1 or 2 stories where I went, oh yeah, this would be a good clip. One of them was the MasterChef one. I like went, I'm going into that. And then there was another one earlier as well too, where I like went, oh yeah, I'm going to lean into this, and then like went off on a tight thing. You'll actually notice them. You'll notice them because they both end hard. And what I've discovered with Riverside, and I'm assuming the other ones are the same, is that when you give a little speech and then end hard, it goes, oh, that's like a mic drop moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so it like goes and grabs the bit that's before that. Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's what it does. You never know how they work, but that's what I've noticed.